Well, it looks like for 2023, Suzuki is coming out with the V-Strom 800DE. Suzuki has really been late to the game of the adventure market. Even in the good old Paris-Dakar days, Suzuki wasn't all that great. They lagged behind most manufacturers including Honda and Yamaha. They came out with the 1050 a while ago and it's been selling terribly. This new Suzuki 800DE appears to be a proper contender for adventure riders with a little bit more taste for the wild. It's a 776cc parallel twin with a standard 270-degree crank. This is pretty much standard nowadays. Suzuki will offer the V-Strom 800DE and the 800DE Adventure. From afar, this bike looks very much like the BMW 850 GS, but this will be the most likely competing with the Tenere 700 and the Honda Transalp. The Suzuki V-Strom is about 50 pounds heavier with less power than the Transalp 750 that just came out. And Suzuki is already having a hard time with this bike. It's going to be quite difficult to sell this bike, knowing this. From an aesthetic standpoint, I don't think the V-Strom looks as good as the Transalp. I know it's subjective, but looks do matter. To me, the V-Strom appears to be more of a generic Japanese bike without much character and a bit bland. One of the interesting things about the Tenere 700 was the rally-inspired looks. And the Transalp looks more like a revamped old Transalp, has all the goodies you would expect out of a modern bike. Ride-by-wire, Suzuki drive mode selector, traction control with 3 modes, bi-directional quick shift, Suzuki easy start system, low RPM assist, ABS, wire-spoked wheels, USB socket. What more can you ask for? Well, one of the things I like about the Tenere 700 is the simplicity. It doesn't have any of this stuff. So if it does break down, there's less things that could potentially go wrong. It used to be that a 750cc bike was an enormous bike, but now the 750 to 800 range is the new 650. I do have to question the need to increase displacement. Just a few years ago, there was a trend towards smaller, more nimble bikes like the CB500X, but now we are moving forward and bypassing the middle ground of the 650 and just going to the 700, 800cc range. And I do have to question why. This new 800DE weighs in at 507 pounds. And that's the standard version, not the adventure version. The V-Strom 650 weighed in at 465. And the new Honda Transalp weighs in at 459 pounds. 83 horsepower, while the new 2023 Transalp has 90 horsepower. I'm not quite a Honda fanboy, but recently you have to admit that they've been hitting it out of the park. And with the Honda name, it always brings people who look for bikes for reliability, which is a paramount on an adventure bike. Having ridden a V-Strom 650 across the US more than a few times, I can attest to the bike's manners. It's a hell of a bike if you've ridden it right, but had issues with anything other than fire roads. It could cope, but without a proper 21-inch wheel, you were certainly limited by where you could take the bike. With the Suzuki V-Strom 1050, it got heavier and lost track of what riders wanted. They had nice engines, but compared to the competition, there was much to be desired. One of the things I miss about manufacturers and engines is manufacturers used to take chances on making interesting engines with multi-cylinders, with the heads poking out sideways and vertically. And I miss the V in the V-Strom. To me, the VTWIN was the best part of the V-Strom. It was one of the reasons to get a V-Strom. But now it's just another twin-cylinder machine. This new Transalp and the new V-Strom 800 are giving riders what they want. The sizzle of adventure. But in reality, riders would be much better off adventuring on smaller 250cc to 500cc bikes than these large behemoths. But at least the trend of the uber large 1200cc adventure bikes is dying down. we are going back to smaller bikes, slowly. This seems to be very critical of this new V-Strom, and that's because I have very high hopes for the V-Strom. But I'm a little bit disappointing that they've gone with the standard multi-cylinder inline 2 sort of engines. I wish they kept with the V-Twin. I know perhaps it's more traditional, maybe it's heavier, but it was certainly way cooler than this engine.